I want to talk about how we read criminal law cases. I'm going to call this tips and tricks. Picking out the issue in a criminal case can be a little tricky. Here's why. It's because there tends to be two issues in a criminal case. The first is procedural, the second is substantive. So I want you to look at the issue statement you wrote for this case. And perhaps what you wrote for this case is you may have said the issue in this case is whether the trial court erred in not instructing the jury on the requirement of a legal duty. And you'd be absolutely right. That is the procedural issue in the case. In fact, in nearly all of the criminal law cases we do, there is a failure alleged by the trial court. So the defendant says the trial court failed to give this instruction, or the trial court didn't accept this piece of evidence. There's always a procedural issue sitting in the background. What I want us to do, however, is bypass that procedural issue, and I want to focus on the substantive issue. So the substantive issue is here, did Jones have a legal duty? Did Jones have the legal duty to feed that baby? When does a person have that duty of care? What are the categories? And are the facts supporting one of those categories? So it's going to go back for retrial. When it goes back for retrial, because the trial court had erred here and we have to have a new trial, which of our four categories might be in play to require Jones to have a legal duty? Remember, we have four. Was there a statute that makes Jones feed the baby? Is there a specific status relationship that makes Jones feed the baby? Was there a contractual relationship between Jones and Miss Green that makes her feed the baby? Or perhaps did she voluntarily assume the care of the baby? If any of those will work, then perhaps we have a legal duty and we would work on our omission analysis. The government believes that it could win on retrial with two of the four. Because the facts are in dispute, we actually don't know if Jones and Shirley Green maintained a contractual relationship. It's a dispute as to how much money was paid to Jones and for how many months. Could be contractual, or it could be a voluntary assumption of the care. That Jones said to Shirley Green, I'll take care of this baby. I'll take care of this baby. You don't have to feed this baby. You go back and live with your parents. I will voluntarily assume the care of this baby. Are there any facts here that could support that allegation by the government? I can think of a couple. The first is the baby was in Jones' house without the mom around. And the second is that Jones took the baby to the doctor a couple of times, sort of suggesting that she had voluntarily assumed the care. So on retrial, when it goes back, the charge is manslaughter, got to prove an act of killing that baby, coupled with criminal negligence, and in the term of killing that baby, it would have to be through an omission analysis. First, is there a legal duty? Second, did she breach that legal duty? And third, did that breach cause the baby's death? Let me ask one question that comes out of the case. We're at trial now. Do you think that the conditions of Jones' home should play a role in the trial? Do you think that the gas collector should be able to talk about what the conditions looked like when they went into the basement, to talk about the cages, to talk about how the children were positioned in those cages, and the feces and the cockroaches and the horrible living environment? Or do you think that should be excluded at time of trial? It's an important question because it lays the foundation and the background for the jury. On the one hand, the government could argue it's absolutely probative. It is relevant to see what those conditions were like. It's relevant because people who keep children in cages in that kind of a condition, you might assume don't feed those children. But the defendant is going to come in and say, you might think it's probative, but we think the prejudice outweighs any probative or relevant value. We think if a jury hears about these conditions, we think if a jury sees or realizes that these children lived in cages, even when Jones had money to feed the children and take care of the children, that they will skip the duty and breach and causation, and they will just decide Jones is a bad person. If Jones kept them in cages, chances are she didn't feed them. Which way would you come out?